we're talking about movies that are quite far away. So that's going to, limit the amount of things we could really show you. But at the same time, this is the first time we're going to have any public conversations about these movies. And I'm talking about Star Wars Episode 8. And the upcoming untitled, and I should say untitled as if Star Wars Episode 8 isn't untitled also, but this is also untitled, Han Solo standalone movie. Please join me in welcoming together the head of Lucasfilm and the SVP of development, the head of the story group. These are my bosses, Kathleen Kennedy and Kiri Hart.
I don't use the word awesome very often. I just want to say that because I don't know why.
That's
but
true, she doesn't.
I'm going to say that this has been beyond awesome. Absolutely incredible. We're having a great time.
I mean, I think for me, it's been really satisfying to see how people are embracing everything that we were able to share about Rogue. And, it's something that I think is a dream sort of coming to fruition that we talked about last year, and it's really exciting.
I also have to say that when the first trailer was up in April, that's really when I think we knew that it was you guys that were helping us do that, because the conversation online, you got it right away. And the conversation showed us that we weren't going to have to go through some lengthy explanation, that it was pretty clear about what we were doing, and everybody seemed to be really excited. So needless to say, that made us excited.
How did your eyes settle upon Rian Johnson?
You should answer that. You were huge.
Well, yeah, I have to say I was a huge fan of Ryan's early on. In fact, I had met Ryan a couple of times before actually taking on the role of being the president of Lucasfilm. So when Kiri and I started talking about who the directors might be that we would consider, Ryan was way at the top of the list right away, because I think many of you who know his films, Brick and Brothers Bloom, and then what he did with Looper. Ryan had those sensibilities that combine an ability to have real substance in his dramatic structure, but also an amazing sense of humor. And I have to say, in watching him on the set of Episode 8, and I don't say this about many people, I think Ryan moves the camera as well as Steven Spielberg. So you guys are in for a real treat.
Please welcome Mr. Rian Johnson.
Hello.
So, Ryan, just to set people's understanding of timeline in mind, I mean, you started Episode 8 while Episode 7 was very much still in production.
I did, yeah. They were still shooting, actually, here in London. They were still shooting Episode 7. And so, I was thinking about that today, because obviously Colin is doing the same thing while we were in production with Episode 8. He was starting to think about 9. And I know it was kind of strange, because one of the first things I did was went up to San Francisco and spent about 6 weeks kind of figuring out the story, and I would go in a few times a week and sit down with these guys and with the story group and just hash it through, and we would watch dailies that were coming in from 7. And at that point, it was just a script and kind of the dailies that we were seeing. And I was thinking about that. I think it was probably really healthy that in thinking about where the story goes next, it was entirely just based on our reactions to it, as opposed to based on the phenomenon that it would become or the cultural reaction to it. It was just a very personal, what do we connect with with these characters, and where did they go next? When we started coming up with, I started coming up with the story, I realized that I immediately, I didn't even really think about it, the notion that we were going to end up breaking kind of a long-standing Star Wars tradition, and for the first time, this movie is going to start right where the last one left off, because it was like, I don't want to skip ahead. that last moment of 7, I want to see what happens next.
But I just want to understand, like, what your level of Star Wars appreciation was going into all this, and then what it meant to have Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and people like Anthony Daniels in front of you.
Yeah.
And they're yours to direct now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it, and in a lot of conversations I've had just over the past few years, I feel like it almost, you almost want to lead with an apology. Like, I know everyone has a "this is what Star Wars means to me" story. It sounds almost cheesy to repeat it, but it is something that's so integral. Star Wars was it was the first. I have this memory of my dad putting me in the car to take me to see Star Wars, and I asked him, "Where are we going?" And he said, "We're going to see the most amazing thing you've ever seen." And as much as the movies were something that I really reacted to, I think even bigger, and that's why it's fun, like walking the floor and like seeing the toys, and I don't know, I feel like, because back when the movies came out, it wasn't like we had them on our iPads. Like, it was, you had to put your name in the waiting list at the video store, and then you got the VHS, and then you and your friends watched it for 24 hours straight. It was like you didn't actually get to see the movie much. So what you had were those toys, and I think even more than the experience of the film, the fact that the first stories we were telling in our heads as kids were in that universe with those toys. I think that's why, and I'm sure, you know, that, like, I think several people have said when I walked on have the same experience of walking on the Falcon set for the first time, and unexpectedly kind of really getting choked up out of nowhere. And what it was is flashing back to being a kid and all the stories I told inside my Kenner, you know.
The back of the Falcon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're standing in it, and there is just an intense emotional reaction that happens.
The new cast, you've got, you know, Daisy and John are back, Oscar's back. They've all kind of, Adam's back, they've all had their first, oh my goodness, I'm in Star Wars experience with the last film. Yeah. So how did you find them coming into this movie?
They were wonderful, and it was, you're right, there was that kind of feeling of, there was that big explosion of the first one, and now the second, but it ended up serving, I think, what this second film is in a very good way, because the first film was this incredible explosion of adventure and excitement that sets up these characters, and then just out of necessity, it's very natural that the second film is where we start kind of zooming in on the characters and kind of taking them, seeing, okay, really kind of getting to the heart of them and challenging them, pushing them deeper. And so I think the actors were all were very excited about that. You've
been very generous in sharing some photos from the set that you yourself took during the making of this movie. Yeah. So we have some here. I don't know, we could show them up and see if there's any stories to tell. You see that there?
Oh, these are our fantastic background crowd who are in the film. It's funny, you realize as you do these films how important the background players are, and you realize how deeply embedded they are from the original films in your head, some of the background, and you start paying more and more attention to them as you're directing. And we had a really, really great crowd that really took to it and gave a great performance in the background of the scenes. I just want to let everyone know the amount of sets that we've built for this movie has been absolutely outrageous, and a tremendous amount of practical sets. And we also had the luxury of doing things like this, where we built exterior, interior sets of some of the ships. So we not only would be able to film inside them, but also do shots from the outside that weren't just like window comps and actually move into them. So yeah, we had fun. By the way, this is kind of like the first time I'm coming out and kind of talking about this thing that we've been doing, and I was very nervous about to come out here, but just seeing all you guys and seeing just the warmth and I'm really looking forward to the next year and a half. I'm really looking forward to showing you guys more and more of what we got, and I think we're all going to have a really good time together.
Please welcome Chris Miller and Philip Lord. I don't know about you, but I can go home now. Where are you guys in terms of your production?
We just moved here 2 days ago, and so we're very, very early. We're still working on the script with Larry and John Kasdan, and doing a lot of early pre-production on the movie with, design work and that sort of thing.
Can't get too much into what the movie's about, but obviously everyone knows it's about Han Solo. So, what does Han Solo?
Well, now they do, Pablo.
Oh, I'm sorry. What does Han Solo mean to you?
Oh gosh, I sort of relate to him. He doesn't want to do anything that he's told. When you tell him not to do something, it makes him want to do it more. He's very sarcastic, and at the end of the day, he's unreasonably optimistic, and I think that's why we fall for that guy, and why we got so excited about making this movie. Is that this kind of dichotomy between this kind of grouchy, seemingly cynical guy with the biggest heart in the galaxy, and to me, that's a great thing to make a movie about.
He's a maverick. He's a scoundrel. He's clever, but he's not smart. And he's he wants to present himself as like this cool, tough guy, but in the end, he always does the right thing. And so I think that's why you love him so much, and it's why he's been one of the most iconic characters of all time.
Now, yeah. The subject of cameos, let's talk about that. You guys were this close to getting into Rogue One.
Yes, we were visiting, doing early prep work here, and we've gotten to know Gareth through this process, and so he invited us to come onto the set, and
Where'd you get that?
a long
Why
time.
did they cut you guys?
No, we didn't get cut.
Obviously, we were
The
bringing
worst
it.
part about it was that we were gonna shoot this thing, but my whole family's moving out here because we'll be living here for a year, and I had to go look at a school for my son.
We couldn't be in Star Wars
because
your son had to go to school.
But who did actually get a cameo is Ryan.
Yes, my producer Ram and I, we chose wisely. We chose like the two dudes who we knew would be in the movie. They can't cut us out because we're the two dudes in the firing chamber in the Death Star who pull the levers and go like that. And seeing Ram in that helmet, his hair just barely fit into that helmet.
You may fire when ready.
What we're discovering now is that cameos are now a form of currency among our directors. Because
bartering.
appearing in episode 8.
We stuck Gareth in there. We did stick Gareth. Where is he? Do we have a?
I think we have a picture of him.
there?
Yeah, here we
Yeah,
go.
look at him. He's a natural. Oh, he's a natural. Look at that fuzzy little guy. Neil Scanlon's team does amazing work. They're just incredible.
So what's casting? What's that process like for you guys?
I mean, we thought from the very beginning this was the hardest casting challenge of all time. I mean, the biggest boots to fill you can possibly imagine. Try to get someone who can capture all of those essences that you think of as Han. And so we did a very, very, very exhaustive search. We saw over 3,000 people for the part.
All across the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like we casted like 5 or 6 different offices, acting schools all across America and the UK.
It was like cowboy bars, like everything you can imagine. Trying to find someone who was wanted to make sure we turned over every rock to find someone who had the sort of charisma and the sort of maverick sort of swagger and
Turns
the
out
sweetness.
that was a total waste of money because the person who got the part was the first person to audition. He was literally the first person to walk in the door. Kathy, I apologize for wasting that. It's nice to be sure, though.
Do you want to say who it is?
Yeah, I think this is the best kept secret in Hollywood. The identity of this person is Alden Ehrenreich.
Yes.
And he's actually here
And
today.
guess what?
He's here today, so let's bring him out.
Oh my God.
Welcome, Alden.
Thank you. Hi. Hi, everybody.
So what was it like? I mean, as they said, you were the first to audition, and then you had to wait while they wasted the time of 2,999 other people.
Well, I went in a few times, and just the whole time, I mean, when it first came along, I knew kind of everybody would be going out for it, and I read the sides, and I loved them, and I thought, all right, who knows, but let me give it a shot, and then I auditioned for about 6 months, and I went, the coolest part of that audition process was I went on the Falcon. And that is, I mean, kind of what you were saying, Ryan, it's like, it's pretty unbelievable. And you get there and you kind of have, as a kid, like this character especially, you play make-believe and you imagine, and you kind of imagine what it would be like. So when you get there, you're like, oh yeah, okay, here it is, you know? And it's pretty incredible. So I'm just very, very excited, yeah.
So you're screen testing aboard the Falcon, because I imagine you're trying to see whether or not you have chemistry with
Yeah.
the Falcon.
Yeah.
Any other co-stars that you would screen test with?
Yeah, Chewbacca, which is pretty incredible. I'd never acted with a Wookiee, so that's a whole different thing, which was pretty, yeah, it's amazing. And I had the blaster, and we did the whole kind of costume and everything, and it was awesome, yeah.
It's such a surreal experience for anybody to like, all right, walk on, here's the Millennium Falcon, here's the, this is the lounge, this is the cockpit, and here's a 7'3" giant talking bear man. And for everybody it was like the first 20 minutes of like trying to shoot a screen test, everyone was just sort of like,
We didn't even roll camera. We're just like, they need to get this out of their system.
It's pretty neat.
And what was your trick, Alden, to not do that, to not freeze up by a...
Well, I mean, you're kind of so, it's like, there's something about it that just felt like so exciting that I think that was more exciting than it was nerve-wracking. Like, actually being on the Falcon after having seen it for so long is just, yeah, it's pretty, you just kind of immediately go like, all right, cool, yeah.
Alden, you're about to begin your journey in a Star Wars movie. It seems only fair to bring out an actor who's just recently completed something with 2 Star Wars movies under his belt now. Let's bring him out and see what kind of advice he has to offer. Would anyone be interested? Any fans of FN 2187? John Boyega. This celebration is in your hometown.
Yeah, man, I'm a Londoner.
What's
I'm
that
a
like?
Londoner.
What's that like?
This is mad. Oh, this is fantastic. Obviously, I've been to Celebration before in Anaheim, and we didn't get a chance to really meet the fans out here in London, but this is amazing. There's so many of you, so thank you for having me. Ryan's awesome. I always like to say that he's doing an indie movie within a studio franchise. The characters have been pushed in a new direction in a very, very cool way, and we're having fun. We're having really, really good fun.
How did this shoot compare to The Force Awakens? Because The Force Awakens was your first exposure to being a Star Wars fan on a Star Wars set.
Yeah.
Did any of that kind of
I mean, who
settle down
remembers
for
my
Ace?
Han Solo action figure that I had from Episode 7?
Yeah.
Remember that? Guys, there's more signatures on it. This just gets better as a Star Wars fan. I get to come into work, I enjoy my time with, new members of cast, and obviously Ryan's great with a new energy and a new take on a real story, and it feels like Star Wars, but then at the same time we have a new director to lead us in an interesting path. So it's really, really fun. I'm having fun. Oh man, you're playing Han Solo, man. Oh man. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. But it's been great, and the Star Wars fans have been amazing. It's like the best fandom to be a part of. It's really, really cool.
So any words of advice for Alden here?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. But, you know, you're going to be fine. I mean, you got that charm stuff down, don't you? And he's smiling just like, huh? This is great. No, it's going to be fun. Very, very good experience, man. And obviously, you've got a great head on you, so you enjoy the ride. For sure. Take care of him.
This is a family that keeps growing. Look, I mean, we've got the prequel trilogy represented here with Ryan and John, and we've got the new standalone programs represented here with Chris, Phil, and Alden, and it just feels like we need to represent the classic trilogy here, don't we? We need to really fill out this family portrait. So, without further ado, please welcome Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. How's Star Wars Celebration going for you?
You know, it's amazing because the emotions that come across are so genuine and so raw. You know, it's moving in a way because you can tell you're part of people's childhoods, and it's like this palpable exuberance. I mean, sometimes I just get lightheaded with it. I have to think of something else, or I just faint dead away.
Something because people say, "Are you guys really like brothers and sisters?" I said, "Yeah, we fight all the time. We're not speaking to each other for years at a time.
Now we're not speaking to each other.
But we have a shared experience, and darn it, I will defend her with my life." But she still drives me crazy.
It's a dirty job, but someone's got to do
It is. It is.
I can't thank you all enough for coming and saying hi and wrapping up this celebration in such a memorable way. This is the Star Wars family. We're going to take some family portraits here before we wrap. And I want to remind everyone that the closing ceremonies are happening here. Warwick Davis is going to come out and recap what an amazing past 3 days this has been. All of us, we're going to see you in Orlando, where we're going to be able to talk about Star Wars Episode 8 and the untitled Han Solo Star Wars movie. Please join me in thanking these amazing panelists.
Thank you.